About the agenda, I've heard the Prime Minister talk a lot about the agenda with the mass migration, why the EU and the United Nations are promoting it. What do you think? What is the real purpose? You know, they say it's for humanitarian reasons, then they say it's for economic reasons. What is the real reason why they are pushing so hard to have this mass migration?
We don't believe in conspiracy theories because we see how the conspiracy is evolving. At the end of the day, if you take a look at the measures, the proposals that are coming from European institutions and most of the political left and liberals in the European Union, and in many respects actually some corners of the European People's Party, and that is the party group we belong in the European Union, is a pro-migration attitude. That perception we see believes in something we reject, and they believe in migration as a resource, as something that is going to rejuvenate Europe, as some put back in 2015, refreshing the blood of Europe, and they've indicated that they have a moral high ground from which they spread these ideas. We see that many of the Western European countries are coping or have to cope with the problems of the labor force, and that is that they require tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of people each year for the labor market. As they have basically depleted the Central European countries and Europe, here we go, there's a natural tendency to find workforce coming from outside. What they don't care about, and that's what we see, is the cultural and, if you like, religious character of the continent and the civilization we've been building. And indeed, we don't agree with this because, first of all, we've seen what happened back in 2015 when over 400,000 people passed the Hungarian borders without consent, without keeping any of the rules. So we see that illegal migration, and that's what is happening at the borders of Europe for the past years, basically only. Illegal migration is carrying dangers for public safety, of terrorism, and last but not least, a cultural problem. And that is, in Western Europe, most of those who arrived from Islamic countries are not integrating. We named that problem because we believe it's important, not because we don't like Muslims or we believe that, say, Islam is inferior to Christianity. It is simply the fact that the rules of those societies, those people who are coming from those societies, and obviously the values they carry with themselves, are not integrating. What we see in Western Europe, especially the numbers reach 5, 7, maybe 10%, nationally, localities even going up higher. The rules of the game are changing, and that is the rules of the value system we have developed and we are living in are changing. As a result, as a consequence, parallel societies are developing, and if Angela Merkel is alerting us that there are places and towns, cities, local communities, maybe even regions of Germany that the German rules, German public administration and German political system is not working, but something else is working instead. That is something we would like to avoid here in Central Europe.
And I've heard the Prime Minister talk about abolishing national identities and how this mass migration is having the effect of undermining national identity through multiculturalism and through the importation of foreign cultures and foreign values. Is that part of a deliberate agenda, or is that maybe just a side effect of the need for labor? What do you think?
Maybe some elements are based on the need for labor and the workforce coming from non-European countries, but definitely there's a political agenda which is trying to change the very nature, the very face of Europe. And that is, there is an agenda, there's a political project called the United States of Europe, which would like to homogenize Europe and get rid of the very foundations of Europe, which is partly Christianity as religion and culture, and the nation state or nations as local communities. Homogenizing Europe is a dangerous project because it goes against the very nature of Europe. We know a lot about cultural diversity and multiculturalism because Europe has always been multicultural, full stop, for thousands of years. That's the very nature of Europe. But that multiculturalism is based on Christianity and a common value system that is coming from that religion and that cultural perception. It doesn't mean that Europe can mingle or integrate with a different cultural entity, which is Islam. You know, Europe back in the Middle Ages and earlier has been fighting Islam for centuries, for an obvious reason. We don't want to fight anyone today, but we are not stupid, and we wouldn't like to forget the teaching of history, and that is, you cannot mingle things that are not that cannot be, you know, put into each other, because there's not going to be a good outcome of it. You have to recognize that cultures are different at times. Any attempt to amalgamate them and and develop something of them is going to fail. That's the lesson of history.